Whether it's seasonal affective disorder or the winter blues, the colder, darker months can definitely be hard. So let's talk about what causes this and some ways we can get through it. I do just want to preface this video by saying I am not a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I want to make sure that this video is really just my personal opinion, things that I've seen work for me and the people close to me. So because depression is such a serious issue, if you are experiencing it, please talk to someone, a healthcare provider, your own therapist, and I just want to definitely put that out there and make sure everyone knows I do understand this is a serious issue. Seasonal affective disorder is such a real thing. I've heard this so many times throughout the years. I've definitely experienced a version of it. I know that just depression, SAD, it's not something to just be like poo-pooed or taken lightly. So I even say that, like, you know, for myself with a grain of salt, like, have I actually experienced it as a real depression, or was it more just like winter blues? Because I know there's a difference there in terms of actually feeling like real depression during the winter months. In terms of what causes seasonal affective disorder, most people associate it with just with winter, but it can actually be caused in any season. It's really just a season affecting your mood and causing just feelings of depression. But usually when I hear about it, it is in the winter. Now, there's one thing that happens most commonly in the winter, which is you're getting less exposure to sunlight. So for most of us, you know, there are some places in the world where you don't have exposure to sunlight for months. And then of course, somewhere it's just not as big of a deal. But for a lot of people in the winter, we don't have as much sunlight. When I lived in Boston and I was going to college there, I just always felt unhappier, like, you know, during the winter months. And that's why I was so happy to move to LA at some point and just be in the sunshine all the time, because it just genuinely made me happier. Funny enough, I'm back on the East Coast and now I love the winter. So interesting, but I did experience it at one point. And the sunlight in general isn't just, oh, I see the sun and I feel happy and I'm in a better mood. Although I do think that really has a lot to do with it. I think it just brightens up your mood, but it actually impacts your circadian rhythm. So there's a lot to be said in terms of, first of all, seeing sunlight in the morning, especially first thing in the morning, is so important for your mood, for setting your circadian rhythm, and for setting your melatonin clock. When you have light or sun exposure early in the morning, it sets the melatonin circadian rhythm. It will help you sleep better at night, and it can even improve your mood because it also increases the production of serotonin, which people refer to as the happy hormone. When it's the winter and you don't have that, this is what can cause, or at least what researchers believe could cause it. I don't know if this is necessarily a proven fact, but what most people associate with it. A lot of people also associate it with lower levels of vitamin D. And so some people like to supplement extra in the winter. Honestly, it's so common to be deficient in vitamin D. I actually take a vitamin D and K supplement every day. So that could be one thing you could also try, but I don't know if there's any hard evidence in terms of data to show that this is actually what causes it. So I did a lot of research for this video, and I really wanted to help and share ways that you could help combat this, prevent it. And I'm not gonna lie, I really wasn't happy with the results I was seeing, because first of all, I feel like when you Google or look up or research anything, you know, the first like 20 sites that populate where it's like Healthline, or just like, it's almost like the surface level, eat a balanced diet, get some exercise. And I'm like, this is just the most basic info at this point. We're all just more sophisticated in terms of our health and wellness and wanting to think outside the box, and not saying that the traditional Western medicine is a bad thing, but I think most of us are looking for alternatives and other things we can do to think outside the box. So a lot of the stuff I was researching that first came up basically suggested a few things. Some of them are good and some of them I don't necessarily agree with. The first thing was, of course, getting sun exposure. So even if you live in New York City or on the East Coast and it's cold in the winter, there is still sunlight. So whenever you wake up, even though it's not as early in the morning, if you can sit in front of a window, get outside, look at the sun. There's even something to be said about not wearing sunglasses and actually getting the sun exposure in your eyes. That helps balance your melatonin, serotonin, and will help you feel better. So that's one thing you could try. Not everybody has the option, or let's say you have to go to work early, so I know this isn't realistic for everyone. So one thing you could do is get an artificial light that's meant to mimic the sun. I can link below the one that I've researched and found the best, but a lot of people will do this and get some kind of light. I also think it's interesting because you know how everyone is very anti-blue light. The one time that blue light is actually good for you would be in the morning, because think about the morning sky when it's like that really pretty blue color. You know how when the sun is setting, you've got that golden light, but in the morning it's blue. That's like natural blue light, not artificial blue light from your phone. But even that, if you're gonna get any blue light, it's best early in the morning because that sets the melatonin circadian rhythm. That's one thing you could do. The other suggestions I found besides a healthy diet and exercise, which I recommend regardless of what's going on in your life, was antidepressants. I am not against antidepressants. I think that everyone has their own reasons and their own bio-individuality. I do think that just taking it temporarily for the winter and then going off of it. Like, I have a pharmacy background. I went to pharmacy school. I used to work as a pharmacist. The one thing that really stuck with me is that antidepressants take a few months to really actually work and do their thing. And the first month or so, you have to watch out for suicidal thoughts. So my thought is just like, if it's seasonal depression or, seasonal affective disorder and it takes a couple months for it to really get going, it would seem like a little tricky, to start it and then go off of it in the summer. So that's my only hang up on that. Again, do what works for you and talk to your doctor about that. But I just tried to start thinking outside the box. And what did I do when, I was feeling a little bit more down in the winter? And again, this is not to say that it's not serious, but these are just my personal opinions, things that helped me and my friends and people around me. So I just want to throw out some suggestions that maybe could help. So the first suggestion is almost based off of stoicism in terms of, you can't change your circumstance. So it's more so go into problem solving or strategizing, like accepting what's there and then working with it. So it's winter, it's dark. There's not really much we can do about that for these couple months. So why not just embrace that part of the year? So that time of the year. Maybe make it really cozy, like light a bunch of scented candles, learn different recipes like latte recipes and like some soups, and stay cozy at home if you can work from home, and just almost kind of embrace that cold winter season. I used to hate the winter so much, and I felt like I would get depressed and I thought it was so ugly outside. And then during COVID, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I swear during that quarantine period, especially I was in New York City, I just decided to try to embrace the winter. I got really warm clothes. First of all, I felt like I wasn't just like dressed properly because it was so freezing. So I would get like pantyhose, like tights under my jeans, layers of socks, coats, like gloves, a cute hat. And I would go for like a 45-minute walk every day, whatever errand I had to run, especially because I didn't want to take any Ubers at that point with COVID. And I kind of just started embracing the winter, and now I genuinely look forward to it. And it's really interesting because I have hated the cold since I was a kid. I was like, I'm never leaving LA. Never thought I would move into the city, and especially coming from a city that's so beautiful with palm trees and sunlight. And then New York, has its old buildings and it's cold in the winter and it's windy. But I don't know, maybe I just made myself adjust to it because now this is my reality. But almost embracing that, and try to go for like an inspiring walk. Let's say your neighborhood that you live in, it doesn't inspire you. Maybe just make that little extra effort and walk somewhere where you can go to your favorite coffee shop or walk to a park. If you don't live in a city, maybe just take a walk around your neighborhood. Even getting outside and getting that fresh air and just being in nature, there's so much to that in terms of improving your mood and pushing yourself to do that. I think that you have to really, really take action when you aren't happy or there's things in your life that, circumstances that are just making you feel a little worse than usual. Really, really take action. I think that's one thing I've always done. I was just talking to my friend about this, where I'm like, I don't know where it came from inside me, but whenever I'm feeling depressed or unhappy or I'm going through something, I do everything to make myself feel better because I just always want to feel good. I've definitely gone through periods where, I've definitely experienced depression in the past in terms of things that were going on in my life, and I would seek out therapy, seek out workshops online, like books, anything. I think taking action is just really important. So finding something in your daily routine that you can actually embrace and enjoy. Another thing I thought of was, a lot of people will travel during the summer and save up for their summer travel, whatever you're doing, but maybe you save up for your winter travel. Maybe if the winter time is something that really makes you unhappy, instead of a European summer or where, a lake vacation in the summer, in the winter you just take a train somewhere or take a bus or take a short flight somewhere, even if it's just getting away for the weekend or going to see friends, doing something where you're really planning and strategizing. Okay, for this 2 months or whenever it happens, I know that I'm going to be really unhappy. How can I strategize out all my weekends and do something that I love? Even if you're not traveling, picking up a hobby, learning something new, just actually planning it out and preventing it, being proactive in terms of not just sitting at home and kind of getting into a slump. And then there's another route you could go where you could either fully throw yourself into your work, where you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna, for these 2 or 3 months, really focus on my career, on my side hustle, on a project, on learning a new language, whatever it is that is your goal and you're trying to do, throw yourself into that. And when I was researching this, there was something in terms of back in the day that people used to actually hibernate during these months because of melatonin and the production of melatonin. I also love how intuitive humans are naturally, and I think that the more technologically advanced we get, the more we almost forget that we have that intuition, the same way an animal would. So I read something about this where humans would hibernate the same way animals did. And I'm like, what if we built a version of hibernation, but modern? So you're like hibernating and diving into your work for those few months so that when springtime comes, you feel really accomplished. Or on the other hand, maybe you really focus during those months on being social, where you're like, I know that I'm gonna feel like a little more depressed or down during these winter months. So I am going to reach out to friends, family, and make sure that every weekend I have something to do, or I have someone I'm seeing, or I'm watching really good movies I like, and just really, really being proactive and doing what makes you happy. Well, I hope this gave you some insight into seasonal affective disorder and ways you can help combat it at home, whether it's seasonal affective disorder, whether it's the winter blues, whatever you're going through. Just remember, you will get through this, and everything is temporary. Everything is a moment in time and will pass. So just keep that in mind, and just knowing that this feeling that you might be feeling is not permanent. We're gonna go through waves throughout our whole life. I will leave some resources for mental health in the description below. Stay strong, and if you have any questions or if you have any tips yourself on this topic, leave it in the comments.